This is a small group discussion with J. Krishnamurti in Bangalore, 1975.
If no one else wishes to start a topic, may I take advantage of this opportunity to start a discussion about higher education, because that is my present occupation.
Higher education.
University education. I've heard very little about your own ideas in schooling, that you would like to give opportunities for learning, but are not concerned about examinations and testing, that side of it.
Mr. Balasundaram is the head of the Rishi Valley, and we've been talking a great deal about it.
I wonder if you're familiar with the ideas of Ivan Illich.
Illich, yes.
Illich, 2 years ago, Mr. Illich was here in India. He met Krishnaji twice. He had 2 long interviews with him, and he stayed with us in our Banaras campus for 3 days.
Huh? So then you are quite familiar with his ideas. And we've been much interested in de-schooling society, and then his ideas about technology, and most recently about medicine.
Medicine, I know. He was in London, he was talking about it. I didn't hear it, I saw it in Guardian.
He came to stay with me in the University of York. We're friends. So now I'm wondering, how are these new ideas going to influence university education? He's already excited the teachers in the schools a great deal to think again about what are they doing to the children. Because in de-schooling society, he says, many of these children, you're telling them that they are inferior. Your schooling only tells them that they're fit to fail. And you're only taking a few among them and saying, you are clever boys, you're going to have the privileges. See, and all the time, he's contrasting really the competitive system with privileges, more and more privileges for a few, and the opportunity for learning. Now, obviously, it's going to be a long time before that more liberal approach to education can change the structure of our universities, but I wondered if you're...
We've been talking about the same thing, sir.
Particularly, it has practical applications. Should university be structured as it is just now? Should the entrance be limited as it is just now? Should the examinations be precisely structured as they are now? And if not, what can we think about as the university of the future?
I don't think, sir, if we can ask, what purpose are we being educated? For what reason are we being educated?
In the past, many people were educated for a practical reason.
Even now, why are we being educated?
Many of us to become doctors, engineers, lawyers.
Which is a form of security. Technological security or philosophical position, all the rest of it. That is, are we being educated to find in the social structure security?
For many, it means financial security.
Security all round.
As well as a structured system of knowledge. Yes.
And do we offer security? Does the universities offer security? Or they deny security?
Certainly, I think the university ought all the time to be challenging.
No, but they don't
ideas.
offer it. We can see it, it's obvious. You start out offering them security, and on the other hand, you destroy that security.
By challenging accepted ideas?
No, by national division, class division, ideological differences, religious differences. All that is the denial of what you start out to educate students for. You only condition them in one way, hoping thereby to give them security, and the rest of it you don't. So either we educate them to be a world citizen, in the deepest sense of that word, not just political, social, but in the deep, realistic, actual sense of that word. Neither Englishman, German, nor Italian, nor communist, socialist, but prepare them for the whole of that, in which alone there is security.
That seems a distant goal.
And I don't think it's a distant goal. I think what is actually is always near.
The young people certainly seem responsive to that.
I know. I've taught in various schools in America and so on. They are inclined, but afterwards, after they go through certain stage of education or certain age, they're no more interested in it because they want a job, the good old stuff and all the rest of it.
I was thinking especially of the young people that are sometimes classed as hippies, but I prefer to call travellers. There are travellers among the young who are really inspired by curiosity about other people.
I know.
And other ways of thought.
The question would be then, the creation of such a world mind, can be produced through a different kind of structure in our universities, in schools? Where do you start it?
Oh, it must start it right from the youngest age. And then gradually, if after all, like the Jesuits say, give a child till we are 7, and then for the rest of his life he's in our hands. We think university much more important than the junior school. I think junior school is the most important. There you should really, we were discussing about this with Ms. Balasundaram and the others, having the highest teachers, highest paid, highest qualified teachers or guides at the junior school. But then as you go along, how do you enter in a given situation? Having, at the university level now, if you want to produce a change or restructure the university, would we be able to do it at that level? We must start at Rishi Valley or any school. Right from the beginning. They're going to have a school here. In Madras, they have one already, and so on. Start there.
Some of your schools have been going 30,
40 years.
Yes. How have they graduated?
I'm afraid not very well. Because in India, they're all structured to, what it is.
I was wondering if some had been able to carry the benefit of that stuff.
Probably some have.
See, the loudest critics of our universities at home are probably the Marxists, and even more the anarchists.
Anarchists, yes.
Young people.
Yes.
With a generous thought for fellow men and society, but they want to destroy this existing structure. And they have such hope that they don't want to wait to create any alternative. They're just hopeful that a good alternative will emerge, will continuously emerge. And the Marxists, on the other hand, have a very clear idea of what they want to put in its place.
Absolutely.
Very firm,
very clear,
dogmatic.
Doctrinarian and so on, all the rest of it. I think there are a great many other schools and colleges in America who are trying all this.
no exams, no grades. Cultivate the mind generally all round.
It's inspired by a confidence which Illich shares that the desire for learning will be there.
Yes.
And if there aren't constraints, that desire will
Desire.
motivate. And of course, A.S. Neil, our
I know.
educator, Neil, he told me that his own daughter was at Summerhill and didn't want to read. And she got to be 12 years old, 13, 14, 15. Only when she was 15 and a half, she suddenly said, I think I ought to read. And very quickly she learned.
Right.
But he said it was a test of nerve for him.
His own daughter, quite.
His own daughter was 15 years old and couldn't read. But you know, in our country at least, it seems that the liberal concept of higher education, which is freedom to challenge all established beliefs and think them fresh, this is being criticized as dilettante, you know.
I know.
Yeah, and really feels we have to defend it. I think in this country it must be a very difficult undertaking to challenge the examination system.
Challenge anything.
So sacred in India, isn't it? As indeed in Britain, still very sacred.
I think the Labour Party is trying to do something about it too.
But it's
It's in the establishment of
in the comprehensive schools.
Yes.
Yes.
He was going to start something.
What shall we talk? What shall we talk? What would you like to start?
You started.
I go around many places, sir, and see people and talk to them and all that. Everywhere I find the major snag that withholds them, you see, from entering into a life where they can observe themselves from a state of awareness, leaving all the other religious things and things that they hold, is the fear of insecurity. They feel so secure. They cling to a god or a goddess or a particular mantra or a particular thing. And however much we talk to them or make them understand that so tenacious a thing, the sense of insecurity they have. Or let it be any guru coming and saying that I shall give you, say, enlightenment, come on, believe in me, means they are ready to believe. That to highly thoughtful people who are high up in society, who are intelligent, who are intellectuals and all that. It's so paradoxical. that is a religious man, like, I don't want to mention anybody's name, Puttaparthi Baba. He will command an audience of 50,000 people, and in them we find the most uneducated, the most educated, people who are leaders of society. What makes them go and cling on like that? You see, whereas there is nothing in it so superficial.
That's what he was saying about education. The role, as you say, the 50,000 people who go to this gentleman, educated, uneducated. It's more surprising why the educated go there. You can understand the uneducated, the superstitious. But why do the educated go there?
The educated go there for, sir, firstly, he seems to be doing some miracles.
Oh, cut out all that.
Secondly, they want a different kind of experience, sir. Basically, I have seen people who are educated, who are searching for something new. They want an experience in a different dimension. They have gone through all that knowledge can give. But it is something different that they are seeking. Won't you say that?
Is it that the human mind is seeking more experience?
Different kind of experience.
No, is it human mind demands experience other than the ordinary,
Everyday.
that is sensuous, physical, sexual, visionary, ideological, and all the rest of it?
The excitement of ideas, all that is contained in the field of
They're
experience.
fed up with all that, and they want super experience.
Super or
Yes, it doesn't matter, extra sensory experience.
some psychical powers, experience.
Is that it, sir? Is that what they want?
I wonder, sir, for example, many of them who go, they don't get any of those experiences. Still, they depend upon that person. Probably they feel assured that their lives are all right, here and hereafter.
You mean these people seem to be giving an assurance to the people who go there?
Yes.
That their lives will be all right. That's the one kind of people it is.
It may be one kind. Because after all, the miracles and such other things that are performed are routine miracles.
So what is the function of a teacher? Sorry, we'll come back to the same thing in a different way. What's the function of these gurus, these teachers, these so-called enlightened people who are not enlightened? What is their function?
Is it that what ought to be their function?
No, what is their function?
What they are doing.
What is their function, not what they ought to be doing?
They give assurance that I am everything, you depend upon me and take care of it.
Oh, good God.
In a sense, that is what they do.
They're satisfying the people's fear of an uncertain life. Is that right, sir? Would you say that? You said Sai Baba or Puttaparthi, whatever the bird's name is. He is satisfying them by assuring them that they have a good life, that they will be, their life is all right, if their life is safe and so on.
Yes, safe.
Safe. Are they actually?
Are they safe? Do they really feel safe?
That's another matter. This is for what they go. When you observe matters, what is
They must be the
driving
most.
force?
They must be the most blind. I mean, this is incredible.
The same reason they go to temples and so on, they do the same thing.
What I mean is, they are highly intelligent people, intellectual people. Even in their case, this peculiar psychological trait is simply.
So this really brings the question: who is educated in this?
And that's what we were asking. What are we educated for, sir? You read Sanskrit, you know Gita, you know Upanishads, you know all this stuff. What for? Sorry, I'm not questioning.
No, perfect.
What for? There's the everlasting explanation of this book called Gita. endless repetition. What for? Drugging the people. All these temples with their priests, with their chants, with their money, 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 money. What for? What is all this?
If I am understanding what you are saying, gurus exist because there is a basic insecurity.
Then change it.
One doesn't know how to change it, and
Then
therefore
fine.
anyone who offers you
Then
a
you're
way
just,
into that
then you're
change.
merely escaping. There is unreality. You're running off into some non-existent foolishness.
Is it a basic insecurity that makes you seek a guru? Or is it an inner urge to know more?
So,
This is
wait,
what you
I'll
base
add
it
those
on.
two things. If it is inner security and you go to a professor, guru, doesn't matter, Illich or somebody or other, to guarantee that they will, that there is security, or you feel uncertain and you want to learn,
Which it should be the demand.
right?
I think you find the latter category also amongst the people who want to find out something more. Not to this particular group, but there are.
I think both these aspects operate. In some, the other is predominant.
Yes.
In some, this is predominant.
Because some of them are really good people. They don't indulge in any of these things. They try to.
No, but
teach.
there's a whole gradation in between.
But it seems to me there's a great difference between your Satya Sai Babas, Maharishis, or Yogeshwars, and people like Illich and Sri Krishnamurti, that they say, here is the answer. And Sri Krishnamurti and Illich say, here are the questions. Here are the questions to keep asking yourself. So
Not only that, sir, not only question asking yourself, but it's a little more deeper than that, if I may point out. One can answer the question. One can ask oneself a question, and then what? I can ask myself why the world in such a dreadful chaos, madness, violence, all the rest of it. Why? I can ask a question. Who is going to answer it? Illich? Gurus?
Gurus will answer it. They'll
And,
say, here's the
and
answer.
I don't accept authority,
No,
because that is not learning.
that's the difference.
If Guru says everything is all right,
You still ask questions.
he may bamboozle me for a few days. But the fact remains, I've asked, why is there such awful, murderous confusion in the world? Because I'm a serious man. I want to find out. And I know none of the gurus answer it. All the clever intellectual highbrows should answer it. They go into theories. What ought to be, what should be, what the ideological, etc. I said that's. So I have to find out for myself, or perhaps with the help of others, say why? Why is this world like this? Fragmented, divided. Religion, you follow? Religions divide people, politics divide people, ideologies divide people. Races, Arab, Jew, English, and
And within society, it seems to me the quest for material security.
of course that's all involved. I mean, the other day we were talking about it in Delhi. The American stenographer gets much more than any highest paid official in India. The absurdity of such a thing. I'm not saying. So, why is there this madness? And going off into reading Gita or going to Sai Baba or this or that, it seems so utterly meaningless, irrelevant. Or going off becoming a Marxist. That doesn't answer this question.
It comforts the individual. The Marxist is comforted by dedicating himself to struggle.
But that's
For how long? I mean, it is ineffective. It is at all serious.
most of us were communistly inclined at the age of 20. After the research, how absurd it all is.
I find a threefold division in the so-called gurus. One like Puttaparthi Baba, who simply assures, believe me, I am God and everything is
Oh, for God, no, sir. I mean, that is wrong.
No, as I find. The second is a few people like Maharshi Mahesh Yogi and Bala Brahmachari.
Oh, no, please, sir.
A few techniques of meditation.
It's, if you talk about it, there is no technique of meditation. Sorry, I enter your field. No, go on, sir. So, but they don't answer the fundamental question, sir. Why is a human being who is part of society, who is the collective, intellectually, morally, socially, he is the collective, he is the world, and the world is him. And he, as well as the world, is in a terrible mess. Hello, come and sit down, sir.
Sorry to be so late, we just got lost.
You mean the way?
Go on, sir. Wait. We just begun asking, what's the meaning of education? Why are we being educated? If we are being educated for security, safety, for a livelihood, that very thing is being denied to us, except for the clever ones.
Sir, this is Dr. Swami.
How do you do, sir? And the very thing that education is supposed to give us, educate the society or the people are taking it away from us. And if that is so, then what is the meaning of education? And also realizing actually what the world is, mess, confusion, misery, suffering, poverty, every kind of deception, corruption, all that. And this mess, nobody seems to answer. The intellectuals have theories about it, not all the rest of it. And there are all these gurus in India. He began with that. Who give promise of something which is non-existent, or encourage them to have experiences which they project themselves. So, what is an ordinary person like any of us? What are we to do? Surrounded by wolves. Sorry, intellectual wolves. Sorry, and religious wolves. So what is a human being to do? Bombarded on all sides by the philosophers, by the analysts, by the psychologists, by the gurus, by the politicians, scientists, doctors, what are bombarded. Right, sir? That's what we're asking.
Yes.
That's what.
we started discussing function of education at a very concrete level. I was saying it as a practical uses, training for the professions, for example, training in skills, training in cognitive understanding of nature so that you have practical results, the whole of technology. But you could also look at education in a different light, saying that the human biological structure has been handed down to us, and for 100,000 years the brain has not changed very much.
No, it's computerized completely.
But it has within it all
the
sorts of
possibilities.
capabilities which have only begun to realize. And here this is really Teilhard de Chardin's concept of the evolution of mankind just now, that it's the beginning of realizing of the noosphere, the world of the mind.
Yes, sir, but he was also deeply rooted Catholic.
He was a kind of deeply rooted Catholic that the church were nervous of, just as Illich
He was
is,
deeply rooted Catholic.
Yeah. But
Jesus
they
and
thought
no, but
it
I'm saying
dangerous.
you believe one thing and talk. You follow?
But if you allow his own ideas,
I don't.
to undermine
I'm
his
fed up with
ideas.
ideas. I want food and not ideas about food. Sorry.
But education can also be an awakening to potentiality.
So, is education or learning, is it an instrument which cultivates knowledge? You follow? And will knowledge change the human mind, human society? I want to live in a different society. My grandchildren want to, I must assure them of it. I haven't got any, but I must assure them of it. It's my responsibility if I have children.
I think knowledge has changed human society in material ways.
Exactly. But we are just as savage as before. Dr. Wilkins, at our meeting we had in Brockwood, he said we must have more compassion in our science. So the real problem is, if I may, what will bring about a radical revolution in the human consciousness? That is the real question. You follow, sir? Right?
I had raised this question last time when we met in Rockwood also. You seem to be concerned, not you personally, but we seem to be concerned with human consciousness, not my consciousness or my children's or my students.
Human consciousness.
It seems to me that I could deal with my own awareness and response. I could deal with that of a few people whom I am close to. I don't really feel moved by the masses.
No, I'm not talking of the masses. I'm not talking about the masses. I'm only saying human consciousness. My consciousness is your consciousness. Human consciousness. My consciousness, which is collective, which is as yours is collective, is not different from the other collective. Don't let me bombard you, please.
No, I was only saying that, it is one thing to think about educating the nation, and another thing to communicate, to feel along with 5 people around you.
That if we can, sir, after all, if I can change the content of my consciousness, the content is the consciousness. The content is consciousness. If that can be changed, it will affect the whole of humanity. Lenin affected it, Stalin affected it, Hitler affected it. Only taking about not what the priests have done with Jesus and how it has affected. I'm not talking about that. So I feel responsible, not to change, but for change of consciousness. I don't know.
And the other things are then byproducts. They happen by virtue of the fact that you yourself are changed, the others change around you.
Yeah, obviously.
What I was saying was that it seems to me that way I could, if I were to change, I could influence only 5 people.
That's good
Professor
enough.
Swami,
No. The change in your consciousness affects the change of consciousness of man. As Hitler has done it.
Sir, I think the comparison, can it be made?
Hitler, I'm taking Hitler.
There it is dealing with content. It's not the change of content. It's a very positive content.
No, it's a very positive content. It's a very positive
Direction,
and
pattern.
altering the pieces in the same area. That's what we are all doing. Altering this piece, moving it there, and we think we're changing. But remaining within that area all the time.
Whereas we are talking about changing consciousness, and what George, he says, when we talk of changing human consciousness, that seems to be an abstraction, whereas this becomes much more real, that a change in my consciousness affects the immediate people.
I said, but obviously, I am the world.
The world is in
I am the world. The world is me, because I am the product of the culture in which I was born, and society, and all the rest of it.
How is that so? That a change in my consciousness is a change in the totality of human
But
consciousness.
this is happening. Gandhi affected, fortunately or unfortunately, Indian consciousness. Gita has affected it. Stalin, Jesus, both.
I do.
Shankara.
Yes.
Swami Paramananda, if goes around talking about Gita, affects it.
Some affected more than
Yes.
others. You keep telling us Hitler, Stalin, Mahatmaji, but what about Panalal in a village? His consciousness hasn't affected the whole of India.
No,
as much.
no, of course not. But I'm so talking, first of all, is there a possibility of one's consciousness undergoing a radical transformation? That's the whole point. My consciousness being the consciousness of my neighbor. I see that, not theoretically, but actually. He's like me, greedy, ambitious, vain, superstitious, wanting security, wanting marvelous experiences, gurus, the whole gamut of it. He's like a million other people. So, what will bring about that change? Not changing pieces in the same area. That's not a fruitful business. What do you say, sir?
I was going to say a couple of things, but I'm not sure you approve of them.
I'm just.
One is that it seems to me that it is not the content that one wants to change, but the aspect, the perspective. It is the dead coming alive. It is the ordinary becoming the extraordinary. The analogy which suggests itself to me is the person falling in love. I mean, somebody who is just another person suddenly becomes so much part of you, so much endowed with all attributes which have no sensible counterpart that could be even discussed or argued. What is it that transforms your relation with another person, your attributes to another person? You're being able to feel the other person as yourself.
Yes, I understand.
And it seems to me that with regard to teacher-student relationship, and the more intimate level, say something like a graduate student, again, it's only very rarely that this happens, but when it happens, it is marvelous. I mean, that you don't teach, you don't even inform, but somehow or other you infuse, and you don't want to do it, it just happens with regard to. Sometimes people become friends, and the friendship survives for a long time, and you don't want to change the person. You take the same content, and that content is endowed with something new. But I don't see how this is done on a mass scale.
I'm not talking about mass scale. I'm talking about you and me and the people here. Can the content of consciousness, which makes up consciousness, which is consciousness, can that content be transformed?
Since you permitted me to say things which sound so different, it is said that this is what the master is, this is what the guru is. That
I question. That's where you and I question that.
If in a certain presence
and
you transform,
then you begin to bring about authority, influence, giving you an experience. By his, whatever it is, giving you his light to you. I wipe all that out, because that implies you are not a light to yourself.
It can happen.
I don't want it to happen. That's wrong to happen.
If it happens,
it cannot happen that way. I can fall in love with you, not with you, America. I can fall in love with you. And I feel in that love an extraordinary state, which is pointed out. That's all right. That's no, which happens to millions of people. I refuse to accept spiritual authority. It is wrong. Sorry.
But you're talking about, what shall I say, third-party observations on the situation. You're talking about what a master teaches a student. I'm talking about something different. I'm saying that there are situations in which, in the presence of another person, maybe physical, maybe...
So this is Guru. I know this. Forgive me. I've been in this game for 50 years. I know this. In your presence, something happens to me. They have said to me, hundreds of them. And I said, that's wrong. That means you are being influenced, you are accepting my peace, my understanding, my whatever it is, and basking in that. At that moment, your problems are solved. You are at peace. But you go back to your life and make mess of it again. Right?
Not right.
What is not right?
Because it transforms you. It changes
So
you.
that means you accept somebody's light changing you. May I say a word in that?
Please.
No, the two things that happen at this. One is exactly as you said. You bask in that light and you go out and make a mess of the whole thing. But the other change that can happen is quite independent of yours. An inner change occurs in my own way, by your presence, which that change continues. By being exposed.
Look, if nobody exists, no guru, what would you do?
No, it may come from any source. Any source. Not necessarily.
Sorry.
No, all I was saying
then
was...
that is not a guru. When you don't attribute it to one person or one presence.
No, we are talking of the change. There are two types of change.
I mean, as a dispassionate observer of oneself as a physical system, you should accept the fact that certain conditions change you.
Of course, sir.
And not say that I do not like it or I do like it.
No. Physical, I eat food, certain type of food, it changes me, obviously. If I eat meat, it upsets. etc., etc. And granted all that we don't have to even think about it. But you are saying what others have said, both to other people and to K himself, that in your presence something happens. I say don't let it happen. Because you then are dependent on somebody. Then you are not a light to yourself.
But I think Dr. Verma was saying that you can be not the giver of your understanding, but a catalyst to enable something to happen.
I question that very, I understand this.
Let me approach it in a somewhat different fashion. The first time we met, many years ago, when you said unkind things about me behind me, you said at a certain stage of our discussion, said that, can't you feel the love coming from me to you? Can't you? And I have cherished that particular statement. And recently I had been with two friends of mine, one of whom who had lost his wife, the other one who lost his father. There is very little I can tell them.
Of course.
I can't produce them, I have no magical powers. But I go and sit with them, and I can almost feel my compassion going up to them. They're both older people than me.
Yes, sir, that's a different love, sir.
And it seems to me that despite myself, my going and sitting with them for some time does something to them.
Of course.
Should they not accept the love?
That's a different thing. No, I don't say that.
So if we remove, the authority part.
I'm not letting you go off. You love me, or you have this feeling of compassion in your heart. You feel this. And you sit with me, and I feel very happy. It's nice. I bask in it. I feel, by Jove, he's a nice chap with whom I can be friends, I can talk. That's all right. But when you move to a different dimension, which is that in my presence you achieve something. That's what I'm talking, not on. So don't, you're now pretty clever, so let's skip.
No, all I'm saying is that there are the relationship of love which you approve. And let me detach it from the relationship of authority, of dogma, of the knower. But there is one person, if I find that there is, say, my friend Swami, in whose presence, in whose company I feel elevated, then I should accept the thing. I may not.
No, I'm questioning, sir. The moment you use the word uplifted, there's something else comes into me. I love you, and that's the end of it. There is no saying you're uplifted, I am this,
Okay, if I were to change the thing deliberately and then say that there are some people whose love you can feel tangibly,
yes,
which liberates you, which
that we're back again. You're repeating the same thing differently.
which I returned a compliment to you, sir.
No, come on, I'm not interested.
No, what I'm saying is that it seems to me that a person has to be loved to feel beautiful,
sir,
to feel capable.
Sir, I love you. I have strong feeling for you. That's a different. There, communication ends. Right? Communication ends. You're not uplifted. You're not. It's like sunshine. But we are talking of something entirely different. We are talking of a different dimension, which is not based on authority.
So let us dissolve the authority.
So I must not seek that dimension. If I seek, then I must know what that dimension is. I must recognize what that dimension is, which means that I've already experienced it. Therefore, it's not original. So We are talking of something entirely different. We are talking about change in consciousness. So I'll come back to that. Not, I love you. There is nothing. You are not uplifted. You feel walking in a lovely grove, beautiful.
Yes.
That's a different thing. Partly sensory, partly emotional, romantic, all that's involved. But we're talking about a dimension in which no experience. Because if you experience, then you must recognize it. That means recognition means you have already known it. Recall. So it is nothing. It's already like experience in sex which you have had 10 years ago. Sorry to reduce to that level.
But it is said, the truly beautiful is forever new.
Look. So, if I am seeking that dimension, cannot be real. That's obvious. If that dimension, that consciousness, that state or whatever it is derived through another, I question whether the other has it. If he has it, I recognize it. And if I recognize it, it's back again to the old game. So, nobody can give that light to you. You have to be absolutely alone. Not with bitterness, not all the rest of it. This, you are a scientist, you have to be alone to find out.
But
I know.
There are conditions which are the conditions which are the ending of the conditions. The being absolutely alone in the sense that you mentioned is a cessation of happenings. Not that you ignore them, not that you try to concentrate, but a case in which there are no events, no causes, no effects, nothing whatever.
Quite, no cause.
Bhavanasha, no movement, no happenings. Now, if that happening happens because I walk in a grove or get up early in the morning to see the rising sun.
It can't happen that way. There is no happening.
You wouldn't want anybody to climb with ladder. You want people to be up there, but no steps.
Yes. I say the first step is the last step. That means, climb the ladder means time, direction, will, which means desire. Which means you have to be totally unaware that you are selfish.
You painted me into a corner. I will withdraw for the time being.
Sorry, don't.
So you say none of the factors in life can help?
No. None of the factors. What are the factors?
We discuss now.
Food?
Food is.
No, food in the sense that you eat right food to be healthy, sensitive, enough protein and all the rest of it. Sex, that will help you to go out. I don't know. Then money, power, position, prestige, all these are the daily things of life. Will they help you? And all the daily things of life is your anger, jealousy, greed, envy, superstition, all that. Fear. Will that help you? So, ordinary things which we have, except for food and other things, fear, ambition, the pursuit of pleasure, certainly won't help.
Apart from that, I wanted to ask, you see, an enlightened one, for example, you are here, I feel so much of love for you. I don't know whether you feel it for me. I expect nothing, nor am I attached to you. Now, this type of feeling, why is it that I have that love for you? Because you are an honest man, good man.
I don't know, you don't know me. I might be dishonest. I might be the greatest crook.
You might be, but that argument doesn't come in my heart.
I hope not, sir.
No, this type of wholesome feeling of love, will it be of any effect, any use in my enlightenment?
So what are you saying, sir?
In your presence, I feel
Affection, love.
affection, love. Not even that. Even when you are not there, I feel that.
Yes, I understand, sir.
I am not attached to you.
I understand, sir.
I don't have that feeling of, I must be with them immediately.
So you have love. And you call that ordinary things of life.
I say one of the main things.
Is that, do most people have that kind of love?
May not be.
No, so therefore it's not ordinary things of life.
I change the terms where it says extraordinary thing of life then.
But I love you in the sense I'm not attached, I'm not want to be, it's not pleasure and so on, so on, so on. I love you. But will that bring about a different dimension in my life?
Yes.
You see, that we must understand then what we mean by love. Right, sir?
Yes, may I interrupt?
1 second. In my experience, I can talk about my experience because about that I know maximum. When I think of you, when I feel about you, it becomes absolutely impersonal. I feel I am without the ego, without the observer. Completely free, I feel.
Therefore, all right, then there is nothing more to be said about it. That is, if there is no observer, and we mean no observer, that means the observer is the self. Then that's when the observer is not, then everything is, you don't have even talk about, you are in a different dimension altogether. That means you are no longer, there is no self. Not there is the Atman, the brother, and all the rest of it, there is no self. Sorry, I'm not browbeating anybody, so sorry. After all, sir, the analysts and the psychologists and the psychiatrists, they are concerned with this problem.
Professors also, because they also have transference with students.
Of course, I mean that. Professors, all that whole, they are concerned with this problem, with the serious, that they see the necessity of change in consciousness. So this is obvious. Now, how is it to be done? And you all say, go to a guru. And I say, my God. And the guru sets himself up and says, I know you don't know, poor chap, I'll help you. And I say, I don't want your authority. I think authority, except for government, police, of law, authority is poison in spiritual matters. I mean, if I want to enlarge on it.
But I have this very distinct impression that you are drawing a caricature of a situation and assailing it, and we will all agree.
No, I'm not. Sir, I wouldn't be so silly. I'm not.
No, what I mean to say is that there are people to whom if you go and then say, "Are you a master? Can I talk to you? Can you teach me?" Who would say, "I'm not sure, but if you like to, you can ask me some question. Maybe I can answer. Maybe I can't."
I met dozens of them, sir. I've seen them all. They've come to me and said, yes, the big ones and the little ones and the big followers and all the rest of the people. So, what I feel is very simple, sir. What, at least to me, is
May I?
yes, sir.
I see a sort of inconsistency between the levels. Maybe because I see them in not in the right order. On the one hand, if I'm honest and sincere to myself, I should not be even interested in converting anybody or transforming anybody.
I know.
The ones whom I transform are transformed not because I want to transform them, but they are transformed. I have no desires to teach somebody physics.
No, sir,
but
I
somebody
understand.
comes to me.
No. I see that tree, the beauty of that tree. I can look at it all day long. It changes, it has its movement. Beauty is... that's one thing. Love is another thing. I love you and there is no problem. Whether you are attached to me, don't attach, whether you're sex, no sex. I love you. In the deep sense of that word, which is not the pursuit of pleasure, which is not the pursuit of desire, which is not the expression of my egotistic attachment, so on. I love you, understand that. I understand that too. And what I cannot comprehend among these Indian people, or what is happening in Europe, is the authority of another in spiritual matters. I don't say love is not spiritual. I don't say beauty is not spiritual. On the contrary, love is. Beauty is the very essence of it, and so on. There I say, to me, that's a totally wrong relationship to reality.
But isn't the traditional Hindu concept of the guru should not be an authority, but a guide?
Oh yes, I know all that.
Servant.
Guru also means lots of things.
And they even go further and say that if you try to achieve enlightenment without a guru, you court disaster. Isn't that the teaching?
That's a dash thing that was invented by the Brahmins who wanted gurus,
That's where
who
you-
themselves were gurus.
That's where you disagree.
What? Let me quote in disaster. No, forgive me, that's why I feel, to me, any form of following somebody, meditations, I don't want to discuss it, meditation has no direction. Meditation is not to achieve a state. Anybody can achieve a state by controlling, suppressing, for all the rest of it. Meditation is something which you cannot practice because it becomes mechanical. I'll give you all the reasons if you want it. And it must be a quality of which you are totally unconscious. You must not be conscious that you are meditating. Sorry. Otherwise you play games.
Would you not say the same thing about educating? You should not educate.
No. On the contrary, I say yes, educate. Why are you educating? What is the meaning of education? Why are we being educated? Just to conform to the pattern? Whether scientists, whatever it is. What for? To uphold the present society? If it isn't, then what are we all trying to do? Being educated. To have security? And that security, they are denying it through education. Because I am an American, I am an Indian, you follow the divisions. So I question why you are all being educated. Sorry.
What about, sir, the pursuit of knowledge itself?
What, sir?
The pursuit of knowledge, isn't it some kind of an education?
Knowledge of what, sir?
Knowledge of anything, knowledge of knowledge.
Knowledge, sir, little more.
Well, for instance, we were talking about consciousness a little while ago and change in consciousness. There, one has difficulty in whether one can define consciousness independently of what we are conscious about. Now, for instance, if we want to know anything about this world, we have to be conscious of something. And if I would consider education itself as some kind of a change in consciousness. We know something at one time, then we know some other things at a later time. So what we are conscious of at one time, after education we are conscious of some more things. So from the viewpoint of, for instance, knowing what life is about, what death is about, what the world is about, one has to educate oneself. Won't you call that education, the pursuit of knowledge? Knowledge of what it's all about?
What is it all about? What is death all about?
We do not know.
So, we do not know. How will you learn about death? Have knowledge about death.
This is exactly the starting point.
Wait, sir, wait. How will you know about knowledge? How do you gather knowledge about death? What do we mean by knowledge? Knowledge means to know something. That is, to know something means it's already the past. You can't know, quotes, about something that's living, moving, changing, transforming, active. It's only something over. Knowledge is the past. Now, how do I know? How can I know about death? I can be informed about it. I can read what the Hindu scriptures say, what the Christians say, what the Buddhists say, what various people say. That is, but it's not knowledge of death. Because I don't know what death is. I've seen death. So how do I find out? Come on, sir. This is
that I am talking is only one aspect of
that aspect contains the whole aspect, the other aspect, if I know how to look at it. Like an architect, he has the whole aspect and then he draws it out. Death, if I can understand have an understanding or not knowledge, how can I have knowledge about something I don't know?
But sir, isn't that the very definition of knowledge?
Which? Not knowing?
No, knowing something about which I do not know anything.
I know, I can't. I can't know something about which I don't know. I don't know about death. I don't know what love means. I don't know what actually beauty means. So I say, can I know about death?
When you say know about death, sir, normally when we say know about death, I know death as suffering, I know death as loneliness, I know death as tears, I know death is sorrow. This is what I mean by knowing death.
That means what? You know the symptoms.
What it has produced.
Huh?
What? The consequence, the reaction.
Yes, you know the consequences, but you don't know what it means to die. You have seen death. You have seen people cry. You have cried. I have cried. Dozens of people. Humanity has cried. Can I know what death is? Not you follow. Be.
Death
I
of
won't go
myself.
into it all. Die.
Die to myself.
Die myself.
Maybe that is an extreme example because that's the end of
That
life.
is the example, sir. Because that's the most profound example. Because death is around the corner for all of, not for you, perhaps for me, it's there.
Well, as Shakespeare said, you see, that's a land from whose bones no traveler returns. So we are talking of something from which we cannot return.
I know. That's, you see, sir, you see, this is what I mean, authority.
I follow you that you disapprove of authority in
No,
teaching.
not disapprove, sir.
No, but you repudiate.
No,
authority.
I don't see its place in things that matter.
And one of those is teaching.
Hmm?
And one of those things that matter is teaching,
Teaching, no.
education.
Yes. Now, what do we mean by teaching? What's the relationship of the teacher and the taught? If the relationship is of one who knows and one who doesn't know, that's one kind of relationship. The other is a relationship of both don't know. We're both learning. Right, sir? Help me out.
I don't know how to respond to you now.
Isn't it a little hypocritical for the teacher of mathematics?
Wait,
to
no,
say,
no, sir.
I don't know either.
No.
No.
I'm glad you took up that subject. I know mathematics. You know mathematics, I don't know.
Very little.
Suppose you know what mathematics is, and I don't know. You have to teach me mathematics. But mathematics is much deeper than teaching 2 and 2. Mathematics means order, supreme order. Mathematics is the very essence of order. Right? Huh? Now, can you teach me order? Apart from 1, 2, 3, 4, that's a different thing. Mathematics, if you admit, is the very sublime order, which it is at its highest level. Can you teach it to me? Okay, you can only teach to me what is disorder, point out. And from the learning of what is disorder, I learn what is order. Which is not a blueprint, which is not Marxist or Mao or anybody's.
Present education leave the teaching at the disorder level.
Huh?
We are unable to go to the order. Would you say the present system of education?
So that's why I said, what is my relationship as a teacher or a student to the teacher? What's the relationship between the teacher and the taught? Is it one who says, I know, or the one who says, I know, but I'm learning. So we are both on the
Lord.
same level. I don't know what order is because my life is terribly disorderly, messy. And I can't talk about order to a student when I'm messy, when I live in mess. So in talking with this student, I am clearing up my own mess and I'm helping to clear his own mess.
And together try to find out what order is.
Yes, together find out. I can only find out what order is when there is no disorder, which means contradiction and so on in my life. Daily life, not just theoretical order.
We certainly think of this as the appropriate attitude for a university teacher. To say, I know a little, there's a great deal I don't know, and let me help you.
Let's help each other, not you and I, help each other.
Because a brilliant student is always enriching his teacher. In fact, this is one of Mao's sayings in his little red book. He says,
I know.
They should, student learn from teacher, teacher learn from student, student learn from student. I don't know why he doesn't say teacher learn from teacher as well. He means that.
But their learning refers to ideas, to patterns, to concepts. There is no movement in non-knowing in this kind of student-teacher relationship.
And also most education is mostly concerned, as we conceive it, to adding to the content of consciousness, not to transforming consciousness.
It seems to me that this is not true about education at the higher reaches, and I think the best example is between a graduate student doing a thesis with a professor. At that level, it is, that's the time when a man feels most like a mother. You take that person into yourself, and together you are little more, and eventually you are quite surprised, you are very concerned, you are quite surprised that a student suddenly has become a physicist. And you learn something. And the student may say, no, sir, you taught me. But the teacher knows he did not teach. But what I am saying was that in this case, it is not a case of your wanting to teach. It is a case of, it is inexorable. It's almost like your own child. You couldn't but love it. And at that stage, there is no teaching. And it is not the system which is either at fault or at glory. But it is the relationship between the people.
That's all.
People keep asking, what should we do to our education system to improve it so that people do lectures?
No, I don't go in for that kind of tricks. That's what I said, sir. What is the relationship of the teacher to the student? And what is the relationship of a human being, apart from teacher, to fellow human being? What is the relationship of a man to his wife, to his children, and so on and so on.
This is an aside, but Professor Swami is the one who told me about nadis.
Yes, sir, I know something about it.
What is that supposed to mean?
So now they tells you the past and all that. I have some friends who have shown me an excellent description of it, really marvelous. The friend goes to the man, and the man tells him exactly. He's got 4 brothers, everything right up to last minute, and what's going to happen in the future even. And everything comes exactly. That's
that the past comes correct, sir. I have seen 3 of my eyes. People came and read in front of me, but the future did not come correct. To say the future comes correct is not my experience.
In this case, the future was predicted.
Completely, thoroughly.
Completely. I told you the people, and so you know who they are also.
That brings up the question, sir. Is there anything like Divya Drishti?
Like
Divya Drishti.
That means what?
the
Intuitive vision or divine vision into the future. A vision that would penetrate the future.
The standard description used in this.
I think it's fairly simple, sir.
Pardon me?
I think it's fairly simple. Do you want to learn? Do you want to do it or theorize about it?
Well, I want to know if that could be possible.
I say yes. Then what?
No, then the Nadi would have some meaning.
No. Suppose I'm talking about somebody else. Suppose K can tell you, you can say the future, then what?
Well, there might be people who want to stop there, know their future.
And wouldn't you be interested to find out what gives another this capacity to see into the future?
Some of course, that's a deeper.
I'm not some, you.
Yes, I would be interested.
Would you go? How far would you go?
That's unpredictable because
If you want something, so on this, you say, I want to find out. You have to give your life to it, haven't you? Not life in the theoretical world, but you have to say, well, I have to.
dedicate myself to it.
No. To find out, to have the power of healing, power of foreseeing this and that and the other thing. I say to you, don't be completely unselfish. That's it. When you are completely unselfish, then you don't care to see into the future. Right, sir?
But you say that then you see.
Then you see, but you don't
Okay.
care. But you see, nobody takes the trouble to say, well, let me find out if I can be unselfish. Right, sir? Completely, at the very root of your being. When do you go?
This afternoon.
At 3,
4.
Oh God, 4 hours more.